kind of settle in and get in. We may have some individuals join us on Zoom.
So I can go to the Herald and
yeah, you can even make it a watch party too and share it to your page as well. And we are officially live. And I'll be moderating both sides. So if a question pops up on Facebook, I will shoot it your way too. Good morning, everyone. We're getting a couple things situated. Yeah, Zoom is moving a little slow this morning in terms of us getting up to the stream. Super excited for today. All right. All right, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. All right. We will be getting started here right at 11:05. We want to give everybody an opportunity to get on and get situated. We have an awesome conversation this morning with my dear friend, Carlton Collins, talking about a lot of things that he has going on in the community and talking about sharing your voice and being an action item behind that voice too. Something that Carlton and I continuously talk about. So super excited about it today. So we've got about 8 people with us. If you would like to engage with us today before we formally get started, please feel free to drop a comment here on the Facebook. If you would like to join us live in the Zoom room, you're more than welcome. Shoot me a message. I'll shoot you over the information, or go to the CincinnatiHerald.com. That information is listed. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Jourdan Ivory of the Cincinnati Herald, and you're tuned into the Influencers Live. I'm your influencer today, Jourdan Ivory, and my guest today is Carlton Collins. But before we jump in, I want to give you a little update on what's happening with the Cincinnati Herald and the influencers. We have a lot of great things happening in and around the community and in our city and our region. And the Cincinnati Herald is a true place for Black news, Black business news, and Black anything that's happening, as well as community actions and activities that are happening all across the region. The Cincinnati Herald is doing phenomenal things. And if you have not checked us out, please visit us at thecincinnatiherald.com. You can also follow us at the Cincy Herald, post amazing content. We've got a lot of great new things that are coming into play, and the influencers are truly just a part of the machine that is truly rolling. The Cincinnati Herald is one of the oldest Black-owned newspapers in the region, and we are truly, truly, truly trying to push out quality content constantly. If you have not checked out the influencers, we are on every Saturday from 11 a.m. to about 11:30, and then every evening on Saturdays starting at 6 p.m. until about 6:30. Since we are no longer confined to the radio station's confines of commercials and space, sometimes our conversations go a little bit longer. The beauty of this virtual space is that you're able to actually go back and watch the recap of our previous videos. So if you happen to miss last week's shows or previous week's shows, they're all hosted on the Cincinnati Herald's Facebook page, as well as on our website. Please be sure to check us out. Let's dive into it today, guys. As you know, I'm usually talking to you about tech. I'm usually talking to you about bridging the social tech divide. I'm talking to you about things that are new and happening in the city. And what I haven't really brought to the table with the influencers is really how change is happening in our community. I met Carlton Collins pre-COVID, and we had a multitude of plans in place on ways that we can engage and work together. And although I got overwhelmed with a lot of things that were happening, as soon as I looked up Carlton and tried to reconnect, I realized he had a million more things going on too. And I tell people that COVID, although sometimes is looked at as a negative thing, I think a lot of great things have sprouted out of this time of really being able to be in front of the computer, operate in the digital space, and not necessarily have to waste time in the commuting or asking people to commute to you to have conversations. Conversations, just like the influencers, are happening all over the place, and people are choosing where they would like to be. My guest, Carlton Collins, is going to break it down today, y'all. So let's start off. I'm not going to read a fancy bio. I'm not going to sit here and read down the 500 different things this young man has done. But I would like to turn the mic over to Carlton. And Carlton, if you would, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
So again, I'm Carlton Robert Collins, born and raised here. I came out of Princeton '07. Really grew up entrenched in the church, right? Between Lincoln Heights Missionary Baptist Church and Revelation Baptist, rest in peace, but we're going to get to that. My grandfather was a pastor, Reverend Robert R. Collins. And I had the fortunate opportunity to grow up at the feet of just legends in preaching in the gospel space, between Dr. Charles Fold, one of my grandmother's best friends. My grandmother was a soloist. She had us singing at 4. You're going to be in them rosebuds. If you know, you know, right? And my grandfather, some of his closest friends of, Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend Lynch, Jr., Reverend Flynn and Reverend Billups and Reverend Harvey, Reverend Harper. My cousin is the pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church. Took over after Reverend Harper, and it's really just it's a weird confluence, man. Like, where I got the opportunity to go to Morehouse. I came out in 2011. Had my son my freshman year. When I got to college, I found out he was on the way to second day of new student orientation. He was born during finals week, spring semester. Came back, told my dad. He said, "You're not leaving." He said, "We're going to work it out." Because he had my sister when he was a sophomore in college at OU. So he was like, "Nah, like, you're going to stay. We're going to make it work." And it's this beautiful story. One that I had the opportunity to tell in 2017 when I dropped the book. It's Rebel. It stands for Resist Every Bias on Every Level. And starts, with a small session. I was very much so influenced by Ta-Nehisi Coates and his book Between the World and Me. And it just gave me this perspective of like wanting to make sure that, my son had a playbook, right? And that was a test that it had to pass. With the main goal being, it's very, very difficult to navigate this world as a Black man, And my perspective, the perspective that I've been afforded, right? I was raised by a single father, me, my dad, my brother, even though I had the older sister. I had a son, my brother has twin boys. My dad was one of 2 boys, and then I went to Morehouse, right? Black maleness is all I know. You know what I mean? And it truly is my lens. So I did feel a responsibility to, just impart knowledge, educator. My BA was in history and a concentration in child development. And I started an organization, Morehouse Education Association. Later, I became national secretary for our alumni association at 22. So it was an amazing opportunity to learn, and the network exploded. But then I've just done a lot. I worked on my first mentoring program when I was 17. Principal Pence, first year, she said, "Carlton, would love for you to help." After my teacher handed me the book Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. white lady from Rhode Island. Shout out to Amanda Setters. You know, she started a fire, and I've just been burning with passion ever since. Um, but I feel like I'm hearing my voice way too much. I love questions.
No doubt. Thank you for the intro to you and your background. And I think, you know, as you and I first met, we spoke about that background a lot. You know, ironically enough, it's crazy that things come full circle. And just to kind of give a little insight on meeting Carlton, I was at the Men of Honor dinner and talking with, who are we talking with? Roy, probably, and Roy Mitchell. And as Roy and I had connected eyes, he motioned me over. And Carlton's first words to me were, "Whoa, you're Jourdan Ivory from the Influencers, the Cincinnati Herald's radio show." Guys, not going to say that I think the Cincinnati Herald is little by any means. We were on the front cover back then, which is really dope. I didn't think anybody saw me. I'm up there with some pretty awesome faces and individuals. So to be noticed in a room, especially in a room of Men of Honor, it was absolutely incredible. Carlton and I got together. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll say real quick. I got to throw this in there, right? Like, because with the Cincinnati Herald, my grandma made me sell them, right? Go around the neighborhood in Hollydale. You know, Eric Kearney, you know, very, very just influential. Like, he came from Hollydale, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Came up under my dad and that whole piece. So me, you know, us not supporting the Cincinnati Herald was like never a question. You know what I mean? So she had us out selling them 50 cents a piece, bring it back, roll them up, like the whole nine.
Yep.
So it's definitely family here.
So that's awesome. So, you know, it's truly full circle. And to have Carlton as my guest is absolutely incredible. Carlton is doing some amazing things. And if you're just tuning in, my guest today is Carlton Collins. You're tuned into the Influencers. My name is Jourdan Ivory. Carlton is doing some amazing things. And before we dive deep into them, I've seen your face all over Facebook. I've seen you all over City Beat. I've seen you everywhere, brother. And not only just you, but action figures in the community and individuals who have not necessarily had a voice. You've presented an opportunity for them to speak on the steps of City Hall. Talk to me about some of the projects that you have going on, some of the things that you're spearheading at this time.
You know, our main focus with the group of us is the Heights movement. We all came out of Princeton between 05 and 07. I'm the youngin' of the group. You know, these are all my big brothers running around. And for me, you know, I didn't meet any of them, you know, after probably 10 or 11 years old. But we just happened to be back at the same time with the same and a similar goal. You know, I was with Lincoln Heights Outreach for a little over 2 years. Durant's became, you know, city councilman in that time. You know, Brandon Woodard came back from, you know, Memphis. He was a pastor in the seminary and all of that kind of stuff down there after going to Ohio State for track. Like, you know, these are just brothers who, you know, I always say we're part of the fortunate few who had the opportunities, you know, to get out, use our talents in different ways. But, you know, and now coming back and you mentioned Roy Mitchell, Keith Mitchell is the other one as well. You know what I mean? And just came together, strategized on a plan to just help the community, like produce real impact, tangible results. It really is centered on the kids, you know, because now we're the coaches, we're the mentors, we're the tutors. You know, I ran the after school program and summer camp, you know, in my time at LHOI. And so like we're there. And then all of this kind of led, it actually started with an unsuccessful 21st Century grant, trying to get, you know, more dollars through, you know, Department of Education to fund after school programs and that whole piece. It was unsuccessful, kind of at the drawing board last year and saying, and this is around August, just figuring out like, you know, what's going to be a path forward, what's going to be something that we can draw some attention, right? Having gone to a number of funders and there's a different, you know, we were the little guy and nobody ever really talked about us type of mentality. But then it was also, you know, we're proud, we're resilient, we're still here, right? This Black run municipality just ducked off this amazingly brilliant place that has produced so much excellence and greatness. You know what I mean? Which Cincinnati, it's understated, how, the depths of what we've done for even the world. You know what I mean? Just in terms of some of the talent, when you think about down at Gilbert Avenue or where where the Children's Hospital is gentrifying, that whole area was, that was Mecca, right? At one point. So, we've just produced so much. You know what I mean? We've exported so much talent in the city, and Lincoln Heights is just a very small microcosm of it. But but growing up in Lincoln Heights is just different because we've always had the gun, like the gun range. It's just normal, right? But that's not normal.
Right.
So sitting there, I was just sitting there, just pondering, had the windows open, sitting in the building right off Wayne Avenue. And then I just hear, I'm like, man, no way. I was like, this generation can't have to deal with this. And you know what I mean? And when you consider the militarization of police, you know what I mean? When we were kids, it was much lighter. You know what I mean? You're shooting 6-shooters and maybe a 9 mag every once in a while. but now it's Cincinnati Police Department, but DEA, ATF, FBI, they do SWAT training there, including sniper training, and Evendale Police Department uses it as well, right? There's 39,000 training hours, gun training hours. There's another 10,000 in K9 training hours that take place within yards of residences. And they're residences that are not in that municipality, right? So the gun range sits in Evendale, even though Cincinnati owns the land. And it was donated way back when in the 40s to the city. And that's how they came to own the land. But back then, that was also largely unincorporated land. And, when it's all said and done, there's no way that I could accept actually looking and analyzing at this intergenerational trauma, right? When you're talking about toxic stress, you're talking about kids just being a little charged up. Say what you will, but if we talk about Lincoln Heights, if we talk about Zone 15, we fight. Like we quick trigger, we're just we act more than we react. But we're wired that way. You know what I mean? Our experience has taught us to be that way. And my thing was at the bare minimum. And one of the first things I didn't do when I got back up here was get into politics. Right, I was crazy active down in Atlanta. My time at Morehouse, my big brothers are really, really amazing in that world. Pollsters and campaign managers and political directors. They're dope. Actually, shout out to Shannon Hardin. He's on city council in Columbus. He always said his goal was to be mayor. So I'm rooting bro on. But I didn't get truly engaged, learn all the players, but I really didn't take too many sides. But the advocacy work and the things that we did and the organizing we did in Atlanta, it was a skill set. And then I had just the absolute blessing and honor to work alongside of Councilman Durrance Daniels. Man, my brother is a talented man. You know what I mean? His mom taught me gymnastics. This goes back years and years and years. I was 5 years old, right? So it's crazy, man. It's a beautiful opportunity. It's just to really set some things right. You know what I mean? This gun range, yes, we want it gone, but there hasn't been a single intentional conversation with the city of Cincinnati, Fraternal Order of Police, even the Sentinel, you know, facilitating a conversation and trying to help us communicate our message a little bit better, but talking about like the damage that was caused. Like the people have not been centered in the conversation about the gun range yet. And like, you know, we have to talk about damages. We have to talk about what does repair look like. We have to talk about how do we disrupt or interrupt some of the social outcomes that have been produced through Lincoln Heights through a number of reasons, through disinvestment, dating back to, you know, carving out our industrial lands. That's why Lincoln Heights looks like a tea kettle. Like one side of the street it gets the tax revenue and the other side doesn't. All around us. And again, you know, if you go back and look at the Atlantic article from 2015, it clearly denotes, like, you know what I mean? We put in our application in 1938 to be established, right? We weren't confirmed until 1946 because we were in a protracted legal battle with Hamilton County, as well as Wright Aeronautical Plant of Lockland Subdivision, because you got to say the whole name. You know, they worked together to fight where tax dollars went. You know what I mean? And Lincoln Heights definitely got carved out of that. But you know, one of the first things that we were dead set on, and it just started as an idea, was the mural, right? But it's so important to celebrate the history, like, and two, it's just one mural. Like we want to try to get 9 more up. Like we don't understand why Lincoln Heights can't look like Over the Rhine with all these murals, because we got enough greats and legends and people like first who just done amazing things. Like something that I even learned, I was talking to Unc, and he was like, you know, post Reconstruction, Lincoln Heights as a school district was the first black board of education, all black board of education in the country, like post Reconstruction. So I was like, whoa. I was like, it didn't happen anywhere else. Like, and you know, the merger happened in 1970. But there's just a really, you know, we haven't been perfect, but there definitely hasn't been a lot of friends in regards to making a number of things happen within the community. And really we're just at this pivotal moment, you know, of the generation of us that, you know, really got the opportunity to benefit and learn and participate in the programs and, you know, have a fully functional recreation department. Like, it's been years and there hasn't been a truly sustainable plan as to how we fix that, how we correct that. And that's actually one of our asks in terms of Cincinnati Police Department, right? So they give asset forfeiture dollars out as youth grants. You can apply for these grants. I even asked about a year ago and applied for Lincoln Heights. We weren't successful, but like y'all told me I was following the rules by applying. So if I can get the dollars, and this money does get dispersed, and it is controlled through the prosecutor's office, so it's a Joe Dieter's decision, which hopefully, prayerfully, it becomes a Fanon Rucker decision. Like we got to keep, you know, we got to get Fanon in there. It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference on just how things played and someone seeing the humanity in somebody before you taking a piece of their life. You feel me? That has to be different.
The big thing that for me, Carlton, is that, and as we've discussed this offline, and as we did discuss it today online, you're asking for a conversation. You're asking for the people to have a say in why and how and where it's affecting them. And that conversation has not been had. And so you're not asking, I mean, obviously we want to see change. Obviously, there's certain things that are coming after the conversation that we know because we've had the conversations. But, you're really just trying to have a simple conversation about the effects of what you've experienced, the generations before you have experienced, and the generations to come are experiencing, and truly. And I've seen tons of Facebook videos of little kids on the front porches of their homes experiencing that. And it's a larger piece. And I think that a lot of times people try to pigeonhole individuals like yourselves into this is a position or this is a power play. But everything that you guys are doing is super cohesive and speaks and yells community and speaks and yells what your true brand mission is. And, and I think that a lot of times individuals in our spaces tend to think of ourselves and we don't think about the effect of it on the youth. And we don't think about it on the generations to come. And the lack of thinking of that prior to this and being proactive in that decision-making and that thought process like yourself has kept us in the same space. So now we have change agents like yourself in the group, The Heights, that's really making a difference. And not only are you guys collaborating, but you're creating discussions, having council members call things to the forefront, truly having the ability to work with individuals like Colleen Hughes said in artworks and do these magnificent things that are happening in spaces that we once inhabited, but now are truly the minority of even that space. So, in the artwork, and I'm not afraid to say it, the artwork is of us in those spaces. The artwork is of individuals from your very city, from that very town. And there's no representation of it anywhere.
No. And I mean, it's important to tell that story, but I got to say this, and I want to lead with it. You can't have a community sustainability plan without first starting with the kids. Because if you're not thinking 20, 30, 40 years out, what are we doing? Like, the kids are first. The kids have to be first because that's the way it always was. That's the way it was always designed to do. And the adults bend their will to make sure the kids had everything that they needed. That's how we pass this thing down. You know what I mean? The next generation always had to do better. And I think now, we do have to have a much, much more intentional conversation about what are our kids hearing, ingesting, listening to. The world is so open, you know what I mean? Like, we have to figure out, how does the village respond? You feel me? Literally and figuratively. Shout out to the double entendre.
Right, truly, man.
But nah, like, we really do, like, we're centered on this point of, we have to put the kids first. And it was because of the advocacy work that we were doing around the gun range. So Durance and I both got separate invitations to Senator Sherrod Brown's constituent luncheon. And, I was there for the front end and I had to run to UC real quick. But I'm gonna put this paper in your hand, and Durance came back at the end and took over the conversation piece, right? And he's like, yeah, we got to do something, right? And then they've just been, Senator Sherrod Brown, as well as Aaliyah Brown, his deputy director, have been absolutely amazing. And then they came to us in February. And asked us, did we want to start the My Brother's Keeper chapter with the Obama Foundation for Cincinnati? Like, Cincinnati had never had one. It's like, whoa, that's big. But
national talks around that too, about bringing it to our region. For you guys to have that as the first one is monumental.
I appreciate it, man. And man, it just really is an opportunity. And we centered it on Lincoln Heights. Actually, in response to George Floyd, the Obama Foundation kind of switched it up in policy, where they issued the mayor's challenge. So if you're any municipality can take the challenge, and there was essentially kind of a new onboarding process. So we incorporated under My Brother's Keeper at Lincoln Heights. But for me, the goal is still the same, right? Like, I would never set foot in Roseline without talking to Reverend Damon Lynch the third. I would never enter Bond Hill without going to holler at Reverend KZ Smith. Um, I would never talk about kids in Avondale without going to holler at OZ Davis. Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So our thing was, how do we like go to community by community, the people who've been on the ground and bootstrapping and just piecing it together and doing it, so the football team still got to play and the baseball team and they got to transport the kids and we got to do, and they've been doing all of that for years, training kids like out of their own pocket.
Out of their own pocket.
Like, and that's what they're willing to do for these kids, right? In a sacrifice. Man, it's a Mr. Blair, Coach Blair down there in over the Rhine.
Yes.
But like these gentlemen who've been absolutely amazing, they've done it the right way, but just always had to do it with meager resources. Like, so how do we build capacity and make change in each individual neighborhood through the people who've been on the ground and doing the work, right?
Right.
Like, too often monies go to United Way and other places, and it doesn't get down to the surface, right?
Exactly.
And we've always just made a way, Black people, right? And when it's all said and done, that's fine. Surviving is no longer enough. Like, we don't want to just survive the encounter. We want you to come in understanding that we're both people, that we're both in life. And yes, I know because of policy, you have the right to take my life, but standing next to each other, you're not better than me, right? And I think that's where Black people are right now. Like, and it's this visceral reaction to the understanding that our the way we've handled the constant oppression and the constant barrage and attacks, and we'll sweep that one under the rug and we'll let that one go. Maybe you actually it goes back to it's a similar thing, right? Of when you think about Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks, both did the same thing. Claudette was pregnant, was with child and unwed, and even to say the fact of just darker skin, right? So she wasn't the perfect case to run that same thing through. And of course, Rosa Parks was in position and already working, and it happened the way it happened, and but at the same time, it was like, what story can you leverage, right? Like, us having to be perfect in the stories that we're presenting, the cases that we're presenting of when our Black bodies are harmed. Like, you can only fight certain ones because it's not egregious enough, almost, right? Like, and there's just these cases where, like, we have to, or it is the case, finally, that we're now sitting still. I mean, you mentioned earlier that COVID, presented some opportunities. It really gave us an opportunity to sit still, and then George Floyd truly broke us. You know what I mean? And it was no putting it back. There ain't nowhere else for the emotion to go because we're not moving, right? And then when you talk about how disproportionately, we're impacted through COVID, think about the response to COVID, think about how 45, has operated around this race thing. I'm putting two and two together, and I feel it I feel that pain, intimately, right? My great grandfather passed away 5 hours after we found out he had COVID. Like, he was 107. The OG.
Right.
But, strong man, raised 9 kids, 6 not his own.
Right.
That's
now. let me say this first. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment section. I see we have Nicholas Lawson in the building. Thank you for being here, Nicholas. And I also see that we have the Urban League in the building too. Thank you all for being here and truly being a support system for Carlton and the movement. I got one last question for you, and then we'll wrap things up, Carlton. How can we as a people be involved? And what are some of the things that we can do to help push what you guys are doing? Even if we're not fully a part of the Heights movement, how can we be of support?
Well, I mean, the very first thing that we need, right? And we're building our operations and getting everything up because, this started as a community idea and then it morphed into, this momentum and us being planted at the right time, and we got caught working as well. You know what I mean? And then the increase just kind of happened from there. But, so we're getting a number of things structured. I guess there might be some more headlines this upcoming week, just in terms of My Brother's Keeper, Lincoln Heights, and that. But you can always donate on our website, and then you can always just sign up, share information, just talk about a talent. If you're an educator and you want to learn how to do more, that's cool. Like some of the things that we're going to end up putting out just in terms of MBK Lincoln Heights, just around Black male education, but also, one of our core tenets is firmly centered on, academic and athletic excellence. So there's a lot of different things moving on the recreation side as well. So hitting us on the website, putting your information in there so we can stay connected. Like for sure, there's a number of things that are coming out very, very shortly, but it's theheightsmovement.com. It's just a great opportunity just to build, just to link up. If you're like-minded and you want to try to make stuff happen in your part of the city, there's a couple of other things we got running too. I've been a business owner since 2011. I started my business a month after I graduated. So educational consultancy, and then now there's also my other company, Engines That Work, is focused on minority business development. Crazy stat for you. Do you know that only 4% of Black-owned businesses have paid employees?
You said 4% of Black-owned businesses have paid employees.
And that's pre-COVID, way pre-COVID.
Whoa.
So a conversation about growth and scale of Black businesses, them doing well, getting access to government contracting, on a city, county, state, and federal level. And then also, we have to figure some things out from a regional perspective in terms of economic development, right? And because for one, that's how it's calculated. And the thing that really, and I'll tell this quick bit, but the thing that really was like kind of a key with it was the Amazon 2 headquarters, right? And then Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Lexington, and Louisville all put in individual applications to get Amazon 2, right? Indianapolis and Columbus made it in the top 20. Nobody made it in the top 10. But if you put UK, UC, Xavier, Ohio State, Louisville, put all of our institutions together, right? How amazing of an application that could that have been, because it's worth an hour and a half all around Cincinnati, right? It's an amazing concept. But then it made me start thinking, like, how much do Black businesses do business with each other in this region? Like, and even across state lines. And that's an EDGE certification. Like, it's doable, right? You know what I mean? Creating those opportunities and creating an ecosystem where, Black people do business with each other, make money with each other, because we are enough and we have enough. We just have to, be centered, focused, and deliberate about the changes that we want to make in our communities, and just link up. Good people, positive people do good business. It's our time right now. Like we can't pretend like There's only way I know how to put it because it's the only way I've ever said it. You know, like the white guilt is really here. You find it, they finally understand, like they finally get it, right? And they're here to help. And it's not, and I'm not saying it from a negative perspective. I'm saying it like some of the things that we didn't have the opportunity to make happen 6 months ago, 8 months ago, right? Are here now in a way that's so very different. Like we really are in this process of reimagining what the world looks like for Black people. Like that's all of our responsibility right now, right? Of us figuring out how we can define the terms of us being successful in every single space, right? That has to be our intentional practice every single day that we wake up.
And
Because
operating in that air of excellence.
absolutely.
And that's what I see from the Heights movement. That's what I see from you, Carlton, is the moving with authenticity, intentionality, and truly just going out there and making it happen. And I know that you don't always necessarily have the full playbook because there's so many things,
Right.
so many things that come into play that you just cannot forecast. But you guys are doing phenomenal things. Listen, if you guys are just tuning in to us, this is the Cincinnati Herald's Influencers Live today, here with myself, Jourdan Ivory, and my amazing special guest, Carlton Collins, talking about the Heights movement, what's happening in the community, and ways that you can get involved in some of the action items that you've seen them working very hard on. Just as a small recap, and if you're watching the recap, feel free to drop any comments, questions below. We will be sure to check those out. Nicholas Lawson said, I defend myself from feeling white guilt. That's a whole nother conversation. This has been an absolute amazing conversation. Carlton, thank you. And I know on behalf of the Cincinnati Herald, we're excited to continuing to push out the news about what the Heights movement is doing and the incredible change that you guys are making inside of the community, the area, and the region. And being able to put some of this stuff on the forefront is absolutely important, but you're blazing a trail that I think our generation of Cincinnatians and Ohioans have not necessarily experienced. And you are truly fighting against the machine. So please, each and every one of you that are watching this, I know you've heard some of these stories. I know you have felt some of these situations. I know you've driven through these areas and seen how different it is than some of these newer, revitalized, gentrified areas. Please find ways to connect with the Heights movement. Find ways to have conversations with Carlton. And I'm going to tell you how to navigate it. Reach out to him. Carlton's one of the coolest dudes, always open to hear you and listen. And when I say this young brother is a true breath of knowledge, he truly is that. He truly is that. And he had not even touched on a single bit of really all the other things that he has going on. Carlton, on behalf of the Cincinnati Herald and myself, Jourdan Ivory, I want to say thank you for giving us your time this morning and dropping gems on us, man.
I appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. There is an immediate ask. So October 6th, and we'll be pushing out the time. So follow us on the Heights movement. We're on Facebook. Follow us there. Follow us on IG. All those things. We're just the Heights movement. But October 6th, we have our hearing. This is the first hearing in the history of this gun range, right? Where we're actually bringing it to a vote before council, but the community gets an opportunity to share its voice. We need as many people, us from Lincoln Heights, from elsewhere. If you understand mental health, if you understand toxic stress and PTSD, and you just want to have your voice heard about how egregious it is that for nearly 80 years, and I'll just give you the stats for right now, but they used to shoot sun up to sun down. My best friend lived right against the wall that they used to shoot at. We used to hoop at, play basketball back there for years, where I got the most run. You know what I mean? 50 yards, they're right there. Right. You know what I mean? So just think about how egregious it is for, 39,000 training hours, shooting 300 days a year, 6 days a week for 7 hours a day. And just think about that 80 years. And it used to be worse.
Right. Yeah, we all
Like,
know what that sounds like.
nah, for sure. So October 6th, like, you know, it really is an opportunity for just the voice of the people to speak out, because it's this key thing, and I'll leave it here, right? You know, I was down in Revelation. I very vividly remember the riots with Timothy Thomas, like driving through Finley Market and that whole piece, because we used to go every Saturday, right? Like, Pops decided, yeah, we're not getting out here. Like, let's keep going, right? Um, and and I remember, you know, Reverend Lynch, the third, Iris Rowley, Queen Iris, um, you know, fighting to have an intentional conversation and with the boycott, right? And in Cincinnati and CPD, in a lot of ways, like, you have to give credit, because they did the work to put together the collaborative agreement. Yes, we need a refresh, without question, and that's unequivocal. But they did that work, right? And they blazed the trail in terms of community police relations in this nation. And the Cincinnati Police Department hangs its hat on the fact that they created this model, and you know, people even still, I forgot which city it was, some mayor messed up and he called us, right? Like, you know, we tout being, you know, ahead of the curve. And if you look up 8 Can't Wait, we had 7 of the 8 already, right? Ahead of the curve of this training around police and community relations. So we can't on one end celebrate it and then on the back end terrorize Black people, right? Because we have to reconcile that, right? So that's why the invite is really to, yes, community of Lincoln Heights, Woodlawn, Evendale, Wyoming, Reading, Lockland. If you've heard it and you want to just talk about your experience, by all means, you know, come out, because it's definitely been a terror for a very long time, and they need to fill us on this one.
They have to. They have to. Listen, you're tuned into the Cincinnati Herald's Influencers. I'm Jourdan Ivory, your host today, and our guest today was Carlton Collins, talking about the Heights movement and all the wonderful things. Please tune in today at 6 p.m. and every Saturday at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. for another episode of the Influencers here, powered by the Cincinnati Herald. If you are looking for things to do in the area, go to the CincinnatiHerald.com. If you have something that you want to put into our paper, email us at sesh@CincinnatiHerald.com. We would love to find ways to partner, connect, get your story out there, and fulfill content that makes sense for our community. My name is Jourdan Ivory. This has been an excellent episode of The Influencers, something that's completely different from my normal topics. And truly, it's been a blessing to have you, Carlton, really striving to make change in our area and really keeping our children in mind in doing so. Thank you for your time. Let's see, Vicky Johnson, thank you. Jones, thank you for being here. Shouting out Lincoln Heights. Nicholas Lawson, give you another shout out. The Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio and Eddie Cohen. We love y'all. Thank you guys so much for all the amazing work you're doing.
Big up, Eddie.
And please make sure you are there on October 6th. Okay. We look forward to seeing you. This is the Cincinnati Herald's Influencers. See you back here, right here, 6 o'clock. Talk soon.
See you, man.